Thanks for tuning in to another show in the Next Reel family of film podcasts.
Want to skip those ads and get early access?
Become a member at truestory.fm/join and discover all the other great perks that come with it.
A long time ago, in a multiplex not all that far away, Star Wars got off the couch. 7 years since the saga last darkened a theater, and it saunters back not with a Skywalker, not with a Sith, but with a tin-can dad and his green goblin son going to space Mexico to rescue a swole teenage Hutt who would really rather you didn't. This, apparently, is the way. I'm Pete Wright, and the New Republic has posted a bounty on this movie. Riding with me to collect it, Justin Yeager, Matthew Fox, and Ocean Murr, 4 hunters, 1 fighting pit, and a puppet that cost more than the Razor Crests. Let's find out if the Mandalorian and Grogu brings the galaxy home, or if it's just a very expensive nap with an A- cinema score. Welcome to the Film Board. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay. I just have to say, I want to start. I got a couple of things I want to start with. Number one, Ocean and I happened to go to lunch a little while ago, and I said that I was excited about this, and Ocean said he was very, very nervous. And I feel like this is going to be a grand reckoning about Ocean's anxieties. Ocean, are you still feeling the way you felt over Mr. Bento Burger?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I am. I think
All right.
that, yes, I can go into that a little bit deeper in that, after having seen the movie, what I thought about it, that it was, the Mandalorian is a good TV show. So this movie, it's very good. It's a good movie. It's entertaining. The action sequences are great. And I am 100% here for the adventures of Grogu. And also it was great in 3D. It was issue. The primary issue I had, of course, is the plot was thin, and it felt like it should have been the first 3 episodes of season 4, and then we just move on from there. And so that was, I have spoken.
Okay. All right, JJ, your opening thoughts.
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked, because I am in a weird place with this movie, because I think that if you've heard me over the years on the Film Board, you would hear me being angry about movies of this type. And I think of it as, Pete, I think you've had the nickname before, Popcorn Pete, right?
I earned that.
That's been levied at you in the past.
Yeah.
Well, this movie felt a lot like cotton candy to me. It was very sweet and digestible and leave you with a little bit of a queasy stomach at the end of it. But I will say that for me, a cotton candy movie in the Star Wars universe is much better than cotton candy in other universes. So I ended up liking it and enjoying it quite a bit, even though usually I'm not a big fan of this type of thing. I've got a lot to say on it, both positive and negative, but overall it was a fun action movie that I didn't expect.
Okay. I like that. Now, Matthew, you come to us as host and proprietor of the Star Wars Generations podcast. So I know that you have just released an episode on a primer before going into The Mandalorian and Grogu, knowing, I assume, precious little about it. I would love it if you would share your opening thoughts as an esteemed host in the media ecosystem.
But
of Star
I will
Wars.
say that my thoughts are kind of a mix of JJ and Ocean, in that, this was an interesting week for TV at the cinema. And apparently you could have paid a lot of money to see the final episode of The Boys in the big screen. Or, as all of us did, we could have paid a lot of money to see the first episodes of season 4 of this show in the big screen. And I think, like others have said, I think this would have been perfectly serviceable as the first episodes of The Mandalorian. I think, knowing that, I'm going to have a lot of fun watching it again. There were a couple things that really didn't fit my understanding of what Star Wars should be, an emo Hutt is top of that list. But and the fight scenes I thought were a little long, but were definitely a lot of fun. All of the like Grogu learning to become more independent and take care of his dad. As we're a generation that's all starting to probably have parents in nursing homes and stuff like that, and so that I felt hit hard. It hit pretty well for the like. I'm very much the kid who grew up with the original trilogy, so that felt well timed. I think it's just for me when you take a TV show and bring it to a movie, especially one in the Star Wars universe, it feels like it's going to be bigger. It feels like it's going to be, and for me, there's one specific moment in the movie where I was like, oh, okay, this is just TV episodes. And it's that, because for the entire show, Mando has been off on his own, doing his own thing, somewhat, crossing paths with New Republic folks and sometimes helping them. But for the most part, just doing his own thing. And so we get to the point halfway through the movie where they've brought in Admiral Coin and they didn't do it the way the Hutts wanted to, but that's actually probably better. More on that in Mando's character in a bit. But he's given Sigourney Weaver what she wants. Now she can do the thing that the New Republic needs to do with this guy's information. I was like, cool. This is when we're going to get the movie about the New Republic. This is when we're going to get a movie that really dives into what's the New Republic up to and how is Mando going to fit into it. And then he kind of went off to Navarro with no one in the theater had any idea what the plot was going to be next because everything was wrapped up. And then it just becomes, it's another episode about the Hutts wanting revenge on him. And I think, so for me, I was really disappointed at that point in the theater. And I think there were other things like that, but I think that was kind of my overall thought is like, I would have loved this to be a grander idea of a movie that took Mando and expanded the scope. It didn't do that, and I'm disappointed. But that being said, I'm going to be perfectly happy throwing this on Disney Plus sometime when I want some good Mando Grogu feelings, because it gave us a lot of those.
It's interesting because I think I line up with the vibe of all three of you. And I think we'll have some specific areas that we may disagree on. But the pieces that I struggled with, it felt exactly like what happened, that they had written about 8 episodes of the show and then were told, here's a little more money, make it a movie, and they just stapled it all together. It felt so deeply episodic to me and not like one coherent piece. When you get these episodes like the little mechanic creatures and their teeny tiny spaceship, which was really fun and a funny gag to jam Grogu inside that little spaceship. I really enjoyed that, but it felt so small screen aspirational to me. The fights felt flat. Everything felt a little bit flat. Like maybe had I been watching it on a big screen or a smaller screen, I would have had even a better experience with the kind of two-dimensionality. And I also saw it in 3D, but it just felt energetically flat. The places where I was lost, unfortunately, were central to the film, right? I just could not abide Swole Hutt. Hutts are hard. They're hard creatures. We've seen them tried again and again, and they're hard creatures. Walking through Nalhutta, where you have them kind of slimy, like all over each other in their various dens, was cool. That was cool. Jeremy Allen White, let me just read a little bit of where do I have it? Rotta, the whole character. I have Favreau saying that this is like it. He recognizes it sounds like a Mad Lib, right? Jeremy Allen White is going to voice a Swole Hutt. It sounds like nonsense. So either this is the dumbest thing that Star Wars has done in a while, of a catalog of dumb things that we could litigate in another show, or it's the biggest heroic swing they've ever made. And it seems like audiences are deeply divided on that, which I have to admit I'm a little bit stymied by. So
I like the Swole Hutt.
Ocean, you like
I
the
like the
Swole
Swole Hut.
Hut.
They made more sense. I have always been confused by why is Jabba the Hutt a big deal, because he's this fat dude that can't move and everything. He speaks in gibberish, and so why don't they just overthrow him? All the Hutts look, they're silly. Maybe they have some money or something like that, but it didn't make any sense of where their power would come from. But then if a Hutt could be when they're younger, like this, now I'm like, okay, I see now. They could have enforcer Hutts. They could have a whole thing. There could be a whole mob hierarchy of Hutts. You have the enforcers.
Yeah.
You got the money men. You got the bosses at the top. Like it looks like a much more well-rounded society. I will own that it felt weird to me that he was speaking English. But
that
that's where I wanted to go.
That was the part that was really difficult for me, and it felt like, in particular, one line really hit me hard in that way, and that's when he said, "I want to be my own
man."
Oh God, yes. Stop! Yes.
Why? Like, in terms of writing, like, if you're gonna give him English, I guess, or even just like something conversational for the universe, you don't even have to say English. Like, if you're gonna give him a common language, like, he still wouldn't identify himself as a man, would he? Like, that just hit me like a ton of bricks in the theater, and I was like, it was tough enough to catch the accent as a Hutt, and then to do that, I was like, what are you guys writing here? It really confused me.
I'm with you. Like, I don't think that you need a Hutt to be like a big physically strong person to have power, because I think it's always been, kind of one of the points of the universe. But I definitely don't mind Swole Hut. For me, it's the English and it's the emo. And it's certainly it's lines like I'm be my own man and complaining about his dad and all this. But, because one of the things that I loved about the original movie, A New Hope, and this carries through most of the way through the original trilogy, and Lucas talked about this as something he wanted to have, is like, look, aliens have different vocal cords and different lungs. And the idea that, like, as we're learning to communicate with like animals, we can't make the sounds a dog makes. And a dog is probably not going to be able to speak English because we have different vocal systems. And one of the conceits of that original universe is like, all of them, Jabba, Chewbacca, Greedo, none of them speak English because they're not human. But our galactic basic is the language they're all speaking.
Mm-hmm.
But our human characters can understand them, and they can't speak their language either, and it works. And I know they've gone away from subtitles, especially with some of the movies that were more for kids, and so that. But yeah, to have, and even if it was like if Jeremy Allen White's characters can speak basic English, I would have at least wished that the two older Hutts, the twins, that they only spoke Huttese, because when they also were speaking a little bit of basic, and at least they seemed like they were struggling to speak it.
Yeah, have them pick one or the other. I agree.
Yeah. And I feel like, to me, if you wanted to have the character of, the Hutt who doesn't want to be a Hutt be someone who speaks, who has a voice and has an emo character, to me, there's just so many other races you could have gone with that aren't so classically like not human. You could have even had it, like, if you want to be from the Hutt clans, you could have had it be a Twi'lek dancer, which would have, you can have Twi'lek dancers of every gender, but if you make it a woman, congratulations, you now increased the number of women in this movie 100%. Well, the sister is also a woman, but like barely than a character outside of her twin brother. So yeah, I think that's the Swole part was a little weird. It's just the emo-ness. It just didn't make any sense to me.
I think some of the choices are what really gets me, and I agree with the emo, and I agree with I think that the trick is this movie is a movie that where the filmmakers worked really hard to make this a practical film, to make, so many of the central character choices are practical choices. And, Grogu is, of course, not absolutely not the least of them. Then we have this central character in Jeremy Allen White that they chose to make a Hutt. And that's the thing that's crazy to me, because we know how hard Hutts are to make universally believable on screen. They're really hard to do. Jabba was the last time, and it was a puppet. And they did not go in that direction. I think this is an own goal for me, that they chose to write a character that was a Hutt. It felt like they wanted to make this swing. But the bigger problem that I have with this movie is not one that this movie can fix. It's that the powers that be at Lucas went to the Star Wars stable and said, okay, let's just say we're going to adapt one of our TV shows for the big screen. We have Mandalorian that was produced at a certain time. We have also Andor that was produced at a certain time. And I think, let's make The Mandalorian and the puppet movie because it sells lunchboxes. That's my headcanon. And what I wanted was a season 1 Mandalorian, and I got the lunchbox Mandalorian post Book of Boba Fett. And I feel like it just wasn't necessarily made for me, for where I want my Star Wars. I've got to go back and watch Andor again for that. That was my Star Wars right now. And I'm really grateful that it exists. And this one was action without a lot of pulse.
But I think that I agree with you. That may have been the point. I think that if they really, I agree they're just trying to sell lunchboxes. If they wanted to make a real Star Wars movie and go in a different direction, they could have grabbed The Acolyte. Because that, while not necessarily the most successful television show, gave you a lot of difference. You could have an adventure story. You can go a lot of different directions with it and make it cinematic without some of the attachments of things, and also have it where you have more people. Because like I was struggling with you saying the word practical, because there was nothing practical in this movie. It was all, I think I thought of Tommy way more than I should have, because it was all these fake things dealing with fake things.
Yes,
there were. And even to the point of the acting or voice acting, like when the Mandalorian and Colonel Ward, Sigourney Weaver's character, are together talking, the dialogue feels so stilted and disjointed that I was like, I was sitting there questioning. I don't think they were in the same room. Now, according to them online, they were, but I was like, well, maybe you guys should have done something a little bit better, because it just didn't work at all with that. And that was the only time that the Mandalorian interfaced with an actual real person, was when he was with Colonel Ward. And
yeah, you're right. He's on the ship
CGI.
With Zeb. It's all CGI replacement.
Correct. It's all CGI, voice acting, and so I think that there's a lot of problems with that in terms of the structure and in terms of what they decided to do with it. But I will concede, I did enjoy it. There are a lot of positives in this. The action sequences were bigger than the show. The fight sequences were bigger than the show. It did provide those things, and it tried to add a little bit to his character, but it did make that wrong turn of having him go back and fight the Hutts, as opposed to continuing on to something that was a larger adventure. Because when he goes back and fights the Hutts, while that's great, and that's the Adventures of Grogu, which quite honestly also great, I feel that it was just another point of evidence of how Star Wars is just better as a TV show, that they should just really stop making movies altogether and just make TV shows, because they could have run the Mandalorian TV show for a decade easily, because there's because he's voice acting, it's stuntmen, and you got puppets and CGI everywhere. So right. You're not even going to be dealing with actors that became big deals and now are going to be much more expensive. So you could really this is really television is where Star Wars should focus, because the television shows are much better than the movies, which the movies are arguably, I think that we've peaked at Rogue One and then now we're done. But that'd be my stance, but I think everyone has that stance. Nobody has a stance of, all of these Star Wars movies were great. It's like, well, they feel that there's some point where there's diminishing returns, but the television shows are great.
I do want to push back a bit, just because I am really looking forward to seeing more movies. And I do think, yes, take a bunch of adults and ask them about the sequel trilogy, and you will have one hell of a debate. You'll have some people who really only liked one or two of them. You'll have some people who hate all of them. You'll get all the idiots who want to say that all Disney Star Wars is bad and it's woke and all that kind of nonsense. But I think, to me, what that reminds me of is, and probably most of us are old enough to remember this, that's how we all talked about the prequels for a long time.
Oh, for sure.
If you weren't of the age that grew up with the prequels.
Yep.
And then all the kids who grew up with the prequels came out, and they loved them, and they taught us to love them. And the Clone Wars taught us to love them. And so I think, especially, and that generation that grew up with the sequels, they're becoming young adults now. I think that's what's going to carry a lot of the next stage of the movies, because I do think there is that cohort that really does have a very strong positive feeling about the sequels. And here's what I think the strategy of this movie may be. And I think it's trying to capture lightning in a bottle twice, but I think I understand where they're coming from. When people look at The Force Awakens today, which is not the best Star Wars movie, it has some really great parts, Rey's a great character, and yes, it's very similar to A New Hope. I think what they forget is Star Wars needed a palate cleanser, because there was so much prequel hate out there and prequel laughter, and people had written off Star Wars. And I think this is a different situation, but the fan discussions around Star Wars right now are so toxic. I would have loved an Acolyte movie, and would have probably had to not go on Twitter for 3 weeks because of it. Because and like any podcast I did about it, I would just shut down my mail, because you'd have people, you'd have Elon Musk saying like, "Oh my gosh, this is terrible," and trying to shut it down. The way him and Trump literally shut down a season of Star Trek because it was too woke. Ugh. And they would talk about, and so I just feel like this was such a basic, simple movie, and we all wanted more from it. But if it opens the door back to Star Wars movies, I'm okay. Like, I don't think it did as good a job as Force Awakens, and I'm nervous about it. But I at least think that may have been their strategy. And I think they could have done it a lot better and shouldn't have just taken 3 episodes. But I think they had so many other film projects that they canceled that this was kind of their, like, we just need to do something.
Yeah, and I'm with you, actually. I'm on board for Star Wars on the big screen, and I'm very much looking forward to Starfighter. I think that is has potential to be something that that feels like it was more made for my inner nerd, and still, this one had some things. You talk about some of the action beats. Let's just walk through some of them. Right, the first of all, the movie opens with the scene that we saw in the trailer. If you watch the trailer, they're on the snowy planet, and he's off to start collecting. He's collecting the Imperial warlords by cards, which we're using the cards.
Yes,
straight out of
great
Desert Storm, right?
Iraq War, yes.
Yeah. Nice little throwback. And so we get the cards. That opening sequence, I think the trailer turned a lot of people off. I actually had fun with the opening sequence. I thought it was great. Okay, we liked it.
Yeah.
Generally liked it.
That was great.
It was a good way to open the movie.
Oh, 100%. And also, it demonstrated yet again, walkers are not good machines. Like,
why would you have a walker
on the side of a mountain?
Why would they do that?
It doesn't make any sense.
What a terrible choice.
Yes. I am a little curious that a small, tiny little handheld grenade has more power than the blasters on those Rebel scout ships, but we can move on.
It's okay. Yep. The things happen. I liked the turn. I like the fact that it sets up the sort of lone wolf and cub kind of cleverness between these two. I think it had a really nice just opening action arc. We then meet Sigourney Weaver. Let us talk about Sigourney Weaver in this movie. How nobody was surprised that Sigourney was in the movie, presumably. How did it hit you? That Sigourney's role as the rebel mentor and sometimes star pilot.
Yeah, we toss this word around a lot on our shows, but it really felt like stunt casting to me, in the way of it wasn't a character other than the fact that it was Sigourney Weaver. Every time she's on screen, I'm just like, oh, Sigourney Weaver's talking to the Mandalorian. Like that's how I felt about it the whole time, and I don't need that for that character. So in that way, I found myself thinking about that the whole time, so I don't like the casting in that regard. And I don't think there's anything she could have done to take me out of that mindset. It's just, I need a different type of actor in that character to give the character what the character needs.
Yeah, because it wasn't a character. It was an NPC that gives him his next mission. And yeah, I think that to me, that was part of why I thought we were going to get a movie about Mando and the New Republic in the second half, because it's Sigourney Weaver. Right. Now, granted, having seen how much the Daredevil Marvel MCU wasted her in the Defenders, I probably should have been. But even there, she got to have some plot. She was this historic, like, older person, had all the relationship with Elektra and stuff like that. And yeah, here, I don't know. Like, if you think about what are the things that make a character, her arc, how is she different from any other generic New Republic officer? No idea. She's not. If you were already going to hire Paul Sung-Liu, I think his name is, the guy from Kim's Convenience who plays Carson, the guy who's been the New Republic person already, he was in this. Why not just have him do it? He already has a fun dynamic with Mando.
Right. Barely in this.
Yeah. Well, he's just sitting in an X-Wing and then cheers. So yeah, that's about all he does. But yeah, I agree. They should have thrown a character in that you had some type of history with, because you want to then try to believe the hardness of Sigourney Weaver when she's like, well, the whole, well, if you don't like it, then I have nothing for you. Move on. Otherwise, here's a cool ship. That it just that doesn't hit. The acting doesn't hit at all with it. It just seems to be there for, it's a plot device to get him to the next place. And that's it. And so if you wanted it to be something, give a character you've already seen. If it is just going to be, stunt casting, why not name her, Colonel MacGuffin? That'd have been cool. And then you could have just gone. You could have just then said, "All
Colonel
right,
MacGuffin, I love that.
Yeah, Colonel MacGuffin's going to get us to the next place. Perfect. All right."
Wait, though, let's, because we want to be positive about some parts of the movie. Can we talk about the stunt casting that really worked? The greatest example of, if you can't beat them, join them. Marty Scorsese as the eating crow while serving up food and the secrets. I was so angry when he said all that awful stuff about Star Wars isn't real cinema. And so it made me so happy to see him being fine, these are good movies, I'll be in them. Although this wasn't, but also just I thought he was a fun character. I thought
I did too.
He's scared. He portrays how scary these people are because of how much he doesn't want to talk, but he also was happy to that was a character. He gave me a well-developed, I knew what this guy was. I knew what his motivations were. I knew why he didn't want to help the Mandalorian. I knew why he did help the Mandalorian. And I'm not saying he did better than Sigourney Weaver. I'm saying he had a character written for him the way Sigourney did.
Oh, no, it was better than Sigourney Weaver. He was very entertaining and great. I love at the end, too. He's trying to not take the credits because he doesn't want to have something happen. And then he realizes he's asked for a famous hut. He's like, oh, yeah, he's right over there. And then takes all the money. It was great. No, I really did enjoy his character. I was a little bit, I don't know if surprised is the right word, maybe disappointed that they didn't come back later. That there wasn't some other reason for him to come back later, because I did really enjoy that interaction and thought maybe that it could be useful if they go a different direction. But once they leave world, of course, it doesn't make any sense that he would come back. But no, that was great. That was some great stunt casting. Martin Scorsese, he's done voice work and other things. I mean, I know him best from, what is it, Fishtail, when he's the blowfish.
Yes.
It took me a minute to realize, okay, the blowfish is not talking; it's a different character, because I've seen that movie way too many times. My children were at the right age for me to see that a lot. So I really enjoyed that interaction. I thought that was really well written, and I thought that was a great way to get us to the next point in the movie, and a very enjoyable thing. And so it is one of where this movie, again, and I understand that we're going to focus some on the problems, but there are a lot of good beats in this.
My hot take on that character is that if we get the movie of Marty Scorsese's life, I think we should actually use that character and give it the Robbie Williams Better Man treatment, because that character actually embodies all of the amazing things about Marty Scorsese. He's got all these hands. He's really effective at doing the things that he does. He's very aggressive, very smart, very, very clever, has the fear that I don't know. I think it'd be amazing. I think we just discovered Martin Scorsese's avatar in this movie, and it's otherworldly. It's totally appropriate.
That takes us to the planet / moon Shikari, where we go. We have, this is the saloon walk-in, right? And this is this fight sequence on the planet that wants for salt, I really enjoyed. If anything, it happened too fast. This is Mando is looking for one of the cards. He doesn't know the name or the face, and the first place he goes is the place where he finds the guy. Okay, it's fine. Plot armor. But we do actually get a great saloon brawl. And Mando gets beaten on and beats up and throws people around and uses the fire in his gauntlets, and it's just all good. That's the kind of brawler I was looking for. I assume that's a high point for us?
Yeah, dropping the salt crystal in the guy's drink when they've established that it's super, super valuable. That was just
move.
Loved it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that was great. I don't know why the guy didn't immediately dump the salt out, but other than that,
I know.
Because if he did it in my drink, I'd have been immediately dumping it out into my hand, because he would have known how valuable it was. But yes, no, you're absolutely correct. That was a high point. I really enjoyed all of it. I even like the conversation to kind of get to the next point, to get to Rotta the Hutt. With oh goodness, what was I don't remember the guy's name. The Corsu, the big mob boss, because he was
Coin.
the one.
John Coin.
Yes, thank you, John who coined it. Yeah, so even I did appreciate that, not only for the action sequences that it had, but it still had a meaning, in that it did bring us to where we were going to the next place, and it didn't feel ham-fisted in for no purpose. It felt really of a piece, and I think was part of, again, in an effort to make sure I say enough positive things about this movie, because I like a lot more of this movie than I don't, and so it was something where it still felt cohesive and good, and then it felt like it was kind of big, like those fight sequences were big, and then it felt like, okay, well, now we're going to move on to a greater adventure in the gladiator arena.
And then the gladiator arena happened.
I really liked the gladiator arena.
Did you really?
I like the gladiator.
Oh, man, once again, I am an island.
No, you're not. I was so sick of monsters by then.
It wasn't that I was sick of it wasn't the monsters that I liked. Let me just say that but the thing that I liked is that, in terms of the story, the fact that there was a belief that they could hold the monsters in, and then you see all these ridiculous monsters, that exactly what I wanted to happen happened, where they get out and they attack the people who thought they could control the monsters. So I was very happy with that. It actually was the sort of comeuppance that I wanted for that whole environment.
Yeah, that is a sort of satisfying down with the organized crime, state-sponsored crime angle.
Except then they go on and just attack all the people of the city.
I know.
Yeah, when they left, it felt
one of the
weird to me
biggest
when they
complaint of this was that
that's fair.
It felt to me like we went backwards with Mando's character. And it's weird because you said you wanted the vibes of season 1. I felt like we got the characters like season 1, because in season 1, he is still very much devil may care. I'm just out for myself.
Right.
And I believe that season 1 Mando would take a guy who he thought he was rescuing, but now says he doesn't want to be rescued. Mando would say, I don't care. I'm taking you hot. I'm taking you in cold. I'm taking you back to your aunt and uncle.
Yes.
I do not believe that the character who ended season 3 would do that. And he does. And even when Rotta appeals to him and says, hey, please don't do this, it's only when Rotta says, I have a better way to do your eventual goal, that he changes. And to me, similarly, this Mandalorian to me would be like, oh my God, okay, let's see if we can round up these monsters and stop like all these people on this planet getting killed. Instead, they're just like, all right, we're out. Peace.
All right. Him trying to kidnap Rotta at the end there, though, I think was once he learned he was going to die. Because they talked one time and he was fine letting him go, letting him do his thing because he had one more fight. But then when he goes and talks to General Coin or Admiral Coin, and then finds out he's going to die, and that now he's like, I'm going to kidnap you hot or cold. Which at the same time, I think in that place he's kidnapping him because he realizes, well, if he dies here, I don't get my bounty. But
he let him go instead of bringing him back to his aunt and uncle, who are going to kill him themselves. Okay. That's the part that was like, this does not feel right for this character.
It led to, so I'm already not quite in the bag of the sick monsters, of the cage fight. It looked strange and flat to me energetically. I get it, like it's a brawler, but then it led to what has now become the tropiest of Star Wars tropes, the highway action sequence. This was some of the longest minutes of the film was getting to the other side of this. And I recognize movie was not made for me, but this was rough. It's fine, but the movie gets its legs again when it slows down, right? And I'll skip a major sequence because I want to make sure we don't miss the episode of this movie that is Grogu the caretaker. This movie slows way down, and we're in a swamp, and Grogu's, I guess, natural instincts is to build a hovel out of mud, and those beats of Grogu taking care of the now poisoned Mando are some of the best in the movie for me. I thought the movie was going to end. I thought it was over, and then it went into this sequence of, 20 minutes of wandering around the forest, and exactly. I was in it. For the first time, I forgot that it was a puppet.
I could have done without the fish man from Deliverance, but other than him, like if you're gonna have that character, give him a banjo, like go all the way. But other than him, I thought that was brilliant. I teared up at some parts, and it was just such that perfect mix of deeply emotional. And then he's taking Mando into the hut to keep him safe, and he bangs his head on the wall
again and again and again.
That is Mando at its best. That mix of emotion and humor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I liked these sections too, and this kind of goes back to my original comment of like this the cotton candy aspects of this. I liked them because of where they show up. I even like those tropes, Pete, of the transport. I actually thought that visually speaking, that the transport sections, whether it's the highway chase or actually the traveling through space, were kind of fun to reclaim in this. But if we take a step and start thinking about the story in any of these cases, especially this 20-minute segment that you're talking about here, like it is riddled with Deus Ex Machina. These are characters, like the character doesn't show up. Why would the character help Grogu, the fish deliverance man? Like, why does the hunter actually tell the fishman all the details that he needs to know to be able to help Grogu, help Mando? Like, story-wise, it does not work. But I agree with you. It was a sweet segment that I think worked really well and all these kind of things. So this is the piece that's reinforcing sort of my initial comment on the film, is that yes, the tropes are here. Yes, these things are here. But I like the universe so much that it didn't bother me in most of these cases.
Wow. I find that I'm not sure if I agree or disagree with you. I think maybe I do both at the same time. And there's a part of that where I felt that this, for me, it also reinforced why I think it should be a television show, because every part of the movie up to here, they've gone a bit bigger. You have good action sequences. You're doing that's all fine. And that's good movie time. But the part of the movie that I cared about is this part, when they really start delving into the relationship of the characters and them trying to how Din Djarin and Grogu, what their interactions are, how they're doing it, in a sense, you have this moment of a role reversal where Grogu is taking care of him, and also being able to communicate all of this non-verbally, because since he doesn't speak, there's a part of it where I'm realizing that my favorite 10 minutes of this movie, there's no real dialogue. And that it really is going into the relationships of it, which is, which you can do in a television show. You can let a TV show breathe. You can let things be episodic. You can do more things that way. Whereas in a movie, it's like, okay, well, we've been here for about 7 minutes, so we need to wrap this up and get the guy from, I love the Deliverance character. We can get the Deliverance guy in here to explain things, because they did have to figure out some way to get the antidote into him, because Grogu wouldn't have known he was poisoned. So I felt they put him in there for that. And also the cool fish scene. But they had to try to get it some kind of way. And that's part of where I'm agreeing with you. It's like, yeah, there is some stuff like the plot demands that we need to get moving forward here. I even appreciated how when Grogu was taking care of him, he was still respecting the Din Djarin's tradition and just lifted his helmet up enough just to shove the water in there, where it would have been much easier to pop that thing off and then, get it, make sure you get it in the right place, because, he could be like, well, I've seen his face before. What's the big deal? But he still respected what his beliefs are, and he still tried to take care of him in that way. And so this for me was the best part of the movie, and where it really kind of clung together in what I really cared about. But it made me want the television show more, because I wanted more of that, and it would have been the
best episode of this season of The Mandalorian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and especially because I think if it was a TV show, it wouldn't have what was, for me, the most clearly tacked on thing, which was when clearly it feels like someone handed in the script, and then some higher level producer said, this is a Star Wars movie. We have to have an X-Wing battle. And they said, okay. And literally just waited till the movie was over and then put in an X-Wing battle. Because the Hutts die. We have that scene of them like opening the door. Am I the only one who was convinced it was going to be the Anzellans? Because like the movie's over, right? The Hutts are done. And instead, it's more droids who are fighting. I don't know why, because their masters are dead. And then we have an X-Wing battle. It literally felt like someone just felt like, oh, say we have to check the box. And they said the writers didn't want to do that. So they said, fine, we won't integrate it into the movie at all. I love this because at 5 years old, I loved the X-Wings and the TIE fighters. I want to see that again, especially if you're not giving me lightsabers. And I'm fine not having lightsabers, but give me some. And like, I think in many ways, the moment that I first realized this was not going to be the movie I wanted it to be was when one of the best shots of the trailers, the X-Wings against the sunset or sunrise, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And we noticed that's just a moment in the credits. Mm-hmm. When I was like, oh, that's not part of. Oh, okay. That was just to have it in the trailer.
Did the credits feel weirdly? This is a brief sidebar. Did the credits feel weirdly cheap to you? Like the opening credits felt like I think like I'm watching Knight Rider right now. Yeah, I think these are Knight Rider credits.
Well, I was thinking the beginning of Top Gun. because it felt like that. It felt the beginning of Top Gun, like because there's like little spaceships or whatever doing. Yeah, I was surprised I was reading all this. So
I think it's the first Star Wars movie that had credits at the front, right? Like, didn't George Lucas get sued, and that's why he started doing them himself? Was because he wouldn't put credits at the start of Empire, and then he started did Jedi in his own and stuff, something like that.
Maybe. I don't know the whole backstory. I know there was controversy. Yeah, I think the Grogu minutes. I just I feel like it's important to note that the movie has something thematic to say, right? This is the entire Mando and Grogu relationship is about fathers and sons, right? It's about parents and children and chosen identity versus inherited legacy, and in this case, mercy as a moral pivot, right? In this post-Empire galaxy, and I think those are such fascinating things to have a movie like this even attempt to address, and the fact that we get just a little of it in this part of the movie, I think is really quite touching. Also, the bounty hunter looking for the bounty hunter, what is his name? Embo?
Enbo.
Enbo. I don't know much of Enbo. I need a brief tutorial, Matthew. Can you tell me why I know Enbo? And his wicked, scary dog.
There's not much to know about him, except he's super badass. And in this movie, he did a good job of being super badass. Yeah. He's very much a hunter, more than just like a go find him. Boba Fett is the I'm going to fight my way to you and maybe have some smarts about what you're doing with the ship. This guy, especially with his wolfhound that has some specific name that I don't remember. His ship is called the Guillotine, which
nice.
Give yourself some badass points. Yeah, he comes from the Clone Wars. That's where we really get to know him. He is he's a person who's been part of this world for a while. He very rarely speaks, but he's super badass and super scary, and his helmet thing is blaster proof, as was shown, and he's just a cool fighter.
This is very much like Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace, where the big bad and he's not necessarily the big bad, but the coolest villain has far more charisma than the star, unfortunately, in this movie. I'm way more interested in everything you just said, Matthew, than everything I learned about The Mandalorian in that movie. And he showed up really cool. One of the complaints that I have about The Mandalorian, we know that if Pedro's not visible, it's always a stunt person. Is that right?
Yes.
That's accurate?
Pretty much, yeah.
So something about the suit and something about the way the suit shows up on the actor, whether it's that stunt person or not, makes them walk in a way that's not very awesome. I don't know how else to say it. The stunt person is not standing in a way that is even Pedro Pascal in Gladiator 2, not a great character, but stood in a way that demanded respect. This Mandalorian, whoever is walking in it, doesn't know how to walk with the uniform. I miss Boba Fett and the way that Boba used to walk in the original movies. There's something missing in terms of the charisma there. Yeah, and it's you're supposed to be the coolest person everywhere you go. You know?
Yeah.
So
that's what I want from the Mandalorian.
I also want to just say on the coolness of him and all, it doesn't matter, but this bothered me so much. Let's say there's one Russian kid who comes to your high school and you're good friends with him and you know him well. And so you call him Rusky.
Yeah.
But then that friend goes out into the rest of the world, especially with a lot of other Russian people now starting to come out into the world.
Yes.
And they all call you Rusky. Why are they calling him Mando? Right. He is one of many Mandalorians now in this point in the universe. Why in the world would Sigourney Weaver call him Mando?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
That is a really good point. It is on par with the what are they doing speaking so much English kind of challenge that I have with this movie. It just feels it takes me out of universe. And yet, Pascal in the fight against the dragon snake was one of my favorite sequences of the film. I thought it was actually, in terms of fake things and fake slithering things, I actually quite liked it. I liked the interpretation of the other native soldier species that has their face in the water all the time. They're weird.
Yeah,
I like them very much, and I think they're very threatening. And we've seen them in some of the animated stuff. And the dragon snake, it is it on the nose. I guess every hut has a trapdoor right in front of their throne, and
Well,
maybe
course.
these guys should know.
Go around the circle.
Stay. Right. Somebody mark this for the next guy. So that was a little bit on the nose, but I still had a good time with that fight, and I thought that lair. Did anybody think when the snake rises up, where was it underwater? When he falls underwater, where was the snake? Like, I don't care. It's fine. I just wish somebody could answer where the snake was.
The level of doneness I had with monsters by that point in the movie, I watched it with a bunch of people, and literally I said, "Oh, come on," when he emerged, because I was like, "We just fought another monster. We've had so many monsters.
So many monsters.
Now we have the wet rancor. We just had the other rancors. Like, can we just be done?" And everyone in my row of the theater was, I mean, it was a pretty empty theater, but they were still, it's like, yeah, you know what? I hope it sells some toys, and I bet in the video game, it's going to be really fun to fight.
Yeah.
And
oh, totally.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe I assumed the water was deeper, but I didn't. But it's a thing of where they part of what I think the issues are, even these issues that we're seeing with it, is partly because of the pacing of the movie. You notice these things in real time. Like where I'm watching this action sequence, like the what Matthew just referenced, the ham-fisted X-wing battle at the end with all the droids, and in real time, because of the pacing, I'm thinking, why are they fighting? I don't know. And so there are several beats like this, and it's unfortunate. You really, hopefully, either in a faster paced movie or in a different movie, you shouldn't have even thought about where did the snake reside. And I didn't think about it either, because I now realize when he was fighting the original ones, he was standing in the water. So where would a snake this size be in water that he could stand in? So you have a lot of different things like this, and it does seem to be that if there was some color by numbers. There was some, hey, let's do this. Like Return of the Jedi had that big monster in there, so he needs a big monster to fight. So something like that. And so I feel that there's just a lot of these little pieces of things that are maybe good ideas in a vacuum, but when you put them all together, they don't quite work out the same way, and that's, to me, part of the problem of the movie. But I enjoy the pieces. I just don't think it makes a good meal.
One of the things that I liked about those pieces and the way it showed up for me is a lot of the way that when I first saw X-Men, or X-Men 2 in particular, on screen, it reminded me a lot of the comic book. And what a lot of these individual pieces in The Mandalorian remind me of are the end sequence for the TV shows, where it shows you concept art for each of the pieces, right? They run through that. And in particular, the snake one, they had that shot where Pedro's way off to the left and you've got the big snake showing up on the right. Like, that reminded me of that. And I was like, oh, this is something that I loved in homage to the TV show. I felt the same way about the music in a way. Like the whole first sequence and all of the getting back to the themes, I thought was great. And then they even took some risks, right? They took us out of the serious, like the way, the practice of what Star Wars has done historically to actually deliver us some new music. And I actually liked it. Like, it didn't bother me at all. I was very excited about the new music ideas and that stuff too. And that felt very much like taking a turn as well. So all of those things, like those little pieces that they brought from the TV show and then put them on display in a cinematic way, got me excited about this movie.
I will add, Ludwig Göransson did the music for this, and the last film that Ludwig Göransson did was Sinners, right? Like,
awesome.
I think it's important to note this composer is a composer of the ages, right?
Love
Oppenheimer, all of The Mandalorian. Like, this is, Ludwig did the show too, and so I found it.
Ryan Coogler won't do a movie without him. He also did Creed. He did
nice.
Or at least he did Creed 2. He did Black Panther.
Tenet,
so that's
Wakanda
like, I'm
Forever.
making that. Yeah, I'm making that Marvel comparison. Like, it felt a lot like Black Panther to me, but in a great way. It's like, let's take this cool music and then evolve it to the next level. I thought it was great.
One of the really cool things you can get in Apple Music, I presume Spotify, if you go to at least on Goranson's page, they released each of the episodes of Mandalorian as its own album. So you can get chapter 1 of The Mandalorian, chapter 2, and it's all his original music. It is just stunning. Really, 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 really good.
Love that.
So I think, I mean, that is for me, that's the home run of the movie. Is the composition was just gorgeous.
I was gonna say, look, the music was good, but the home run of the movie is The Adventures of Grogu. Because if you take that out, this is a series of fight scenes with no heart.
Yeah,
and that, so that section right there to me makes the entire movie where it's like, okay, well now we have something that I can really like and enjoy, but the rest of it are just interchangeable YouTube clips of good action sequences, and so so for me it is the growth of Grogu, even enhancing his powers, right? They just enhance it because he used to earlier on, or even in the show, if he'd have lifted up a hut, he'd have passed out afterwards, right? And this time he didn't. Like the ability to control, even pushing Mando with his head, banging his head against the wall, which was great. But banging his head against the wall, so they're increasing him, and then anything that does the development in the character of his plot and his journey was I think really a great part of this, and the main thing to hang on to this, because it was the most heart. It was the main thing that I attached to. It is the reason I'll watch it again. I mean, the rest of it is like if the clips are on, sure, but the reason I'm going to watch this again is for those scenes and those moments.
I mean, we're all parents with children, and watching some of the relationship of Mandalorian and Grogu in the movie just had me reflecting on how awesome it would have been had my kids had the Force. Like that would have been dope. And so it's a fantasy piece for me still. Maybe the movie was made for me.
I mean, it's also magic markers floating around the room, writing on walls without them having to control them. So
Fair. Well, we gotta get to our final verdict here, and over at letterboxd.com/thenextreel, that's where you can find the reviews and ratings for all the films that we cover on the Next Reel family of film shows, and we use stars and hearts to actually make our mark, and this is the way. Out of 5 stars, Ocean, where do you sit?
Yeah, I'm pretty in the middle, so I'm gonna go 3 stars in a Grogu, because Grogu is the heart of this movie. So we'll go 3 stars in Grogu. There was I like more of it than I don't like, but I feel that it robbed me of a television show. Like that's really what I want. I want seasons 4, 5, 6, and 7 of this show, and I really hope that they take away from this. Hey, let's stop making the movie and then just bring this show back. And that's where I think that it would really thrive. The stories could be great, and that it's really the format of where I'd want to enjoy it.
JJ.
I am 3 stars and a heart as well. And really sort of the reason why I prefaced it the way I did is because it sounds like a contradiction to my character of the way I feel about these movies. We reviewed the most recent Jurassic Park movie last. I refuse to see all the new Avatar movies because it is this kind of thing, right? We are getting into the things about these universes that we like so much. And I just like the Star Wars universe more than those universes. So it's 3 stars and a like for me, and I will go see it again. I have all these quibbles, but it's enjoyable. So I'm going for it.
Okay. Matthew?
I think I'm probably 2.5 to 3 stars. I'm not quite as up there. And I think it's mostly because and I've talked about this in the podcast a bunch. When I judge a Star Wars movie, I have to think about 2 things. One is just how do I feel watching it, but also how does it contribute to my overall thoughts about the universe of Star Wars? And I think there's only 2 bad movies in Star Wars, and that's Attack of the Clones and Rise of Skywalker, and for very different reasons. But if I want to rewatch Star Wars, I'm going to watch those movies because to me they're essential parts of the story. I'm probably not going to rewatch Solo because to me it doesn't feel like I like Solo a lot more than this, but I'm not going to rewatch it as I need to immerse myself in everything Star Wars. This is going to be that. This is probably going to be, if I'm doing a rewatch of Mandalorian, I'll end it with this. And I think not having the expectations I have of it, I'll probably watch it again. I don't think I'll pay for it, but I'll wait till it comes on Disney Plus, and I'll probably enjoy it a lot more than I did. So I would say as a movie, it's 3 stars. As a Star Wars movie, it's 2.5 stars.
That's absolutely fair. And I think we're all right around the same middle. I'm going to go ahead and give it the Grogu boost, 3 stars and a heart. I think you guys have softened me a little bit on it because I came in harder. I came in more disappointed in Swole Hut. You guys, that's so dumb. I can't with the axes.
I can't believe you. To me, I don't care about the muscles. It's the, oh, my dad.
It's poor Dawson.
What a hut does.
I know. I just that is such a ding against this movie. That entire character, and Jeremy Allen White just is cashing some sort of check to do this. I don't know how. I mean, I look forward to other really great things from Jeremy Allen White, besides The Bear, than this.
I wonder if Jeremy Allen White is about to be in a Scorsese movie.
That would explain. They come as a duo.
Yeah.
Do we have any guidance on what is going to happen with Mandalorian as a property, or is it all hinge on this movie? Is there any news about coming back for a season 5 after this?
So I can speak to that a little bit, which is that they've obviously been doing a number of things in this time period that are, among other things, trying to fill in the gaps to the sequels the way that Clone Wars did for the prequels. So for example, a lot of Mandalorian has been him chasing after these Imperials who are trying to do cloning, which is obviously setting up what becomes Snoke and becomes the Emperor and all of that. And I will say one thing that I liked about this movie, because I was nervous about it, was, if you remember in the MCU, there were a number of those Phase 2 movies leading up to Age of Ultron that just had these scenes stuck in for no reason except they set up Age of Ultron. Sometime later this year or early next, we're going to get Ahsoka, season 2. And at that point, Thrawn is back, and that's the show where we're really going to get some kind of a big fight between the New Republic and the Imperial remnants under Thrawn. I would have liked this movie to have a little bit to help set that up. I was worried it would have a lot that didn't seem like it should. So I was glad that it didn't go that route like the MCU did. But that's our next big project set in this time period. And I think Garazeb is absolutely going to be a big part of that. And that's why he was introduced in this movie. He was on screen for like 5 seconds in Ahsoka episode, but this is the first time he really had some character. And by the way, it's one of my favorite Rebels characters. I loved him, wanted more of him. I also really thought Hondo was going to come out of that gunrunner ship, but that's another story. But I think that's going to be the next time we get something in this time period. And particularly as Ahsoka has been a show very much about the Force and very much about different people's attitudes to the Force. And we know that Ahsoka and Grogu have a connection. I think it is very possible that there's some kind of an overlap there. We know that Grogu has rejected being a Jedi. He wants to be a Mandalorian instead. But I could see there being, depending on how many episodes of Ahsoka we get, some sort of big battle, or it leads into the Starfighter movie, which I think is also going to be set in this time period, in which Mando and Grogu, we get kind of like the Avengers. And so to me, Mando and Grogu are the Guardians of the Galaxy to the Avengers. Like, they're off on the edge, but they're probably going to come in for the big fight.
I like that.
Oh, I like that too. We've just made a movie I'm really excited to watch. Ocean! Look at Ocean twisting his face all up.
That's way more thought than I've seen of anything in Star Wars. I mean, honestly, at this point, I'm thinking, Matthew, you should be in charge, and you run it, because they're not smart enough to do all that. I've not. I mean, they have the Star Wars universe is one of those things of where, while yes, I enjoy it and everything, they have a complete and total lack of cohesion. They make their movies as if they're playing Mad Libs. And so I would be shocked if you saw anything that had that type of cohesion. It'd be amazing. I'm now, honestly, you have my vote, Matthew. I want you running the Star Wars universe, because I want to see what you just said.
The first thing I do is hand the keys to Rian Johnson. And for some reason I don't understand. Some people don't think he's good for Star Wars. So... But there we go.
I'm in that camp too.
I wanted The Last Jedi and The Acolyte all the way down. Give me those two in Andor.
100%.
I know we need to wrap up. Can I close with just my one sad little thing that I anytime there's something like this, I know that there's always the balance of how do you do it in a way that makes the people who love the show happy without making the people feel like they have to do homework to watch the movie. And I get that most of the stuff from the show wasn't going to carry over. We didn't get anything about the other Mandalorians and Satine Kryze and all that, and I was fine with that. Sibian Ran and all that. But the one thing I thought would have been nice, both because of the show itself and the meta around it, is one of Mando's best friends was Greef Karga, who eventually became High Magistrate, not just High Magistrate Karga. And he, of course, was played by Carl Weathers, who passed away. So obviously the character wasn't going to be in here, but we went to Navarro, the planet that he was the High Magistrate of, and we didn't stay there very long, but that's the planet where they kind of go and they camp out, and then Enbo finds him. You didn't have to do much, but just like when he's walking through town, since we already know they put up statues to people, they did it of the IG droid in the show. I would have loved to see a statue that, in the movie is honoring Greef Karga, but to us is also honoring Carl Weathers, who I think, was a huge part of the Rocky movies that I loved as a kid and to me are of the same time period. And it was part of what got me into Mando season 1 was seeing him in it. So I just think it would have been a nice, we don't have to do a big deal because people who haven't seen the show don't know it and it's from earlier seasons, but I thought that would have been I was sad that there was no mention of Carl Weathers and Greef Karga.
It's weird. You're absolutely right. It is just exactly the kind of fan service that I would have been down for. It's perfect.
And Matthew just gave us another point of why he should be running the Star Wars universe, because that again is better than what they're saying. So yeah,
yep.
Disney, if you're listening.
Cool. All right. We'll start the letter writing campaign after this.
There you go.
I'm not making good money playing poker right now, but I think Disney could maybe make me a better offer.
Well, I will just, I'll say, go check out Matthew's show, Star Wars Generations podcast. There is a lot of in-depth stuff over there if you want to get more of exactly this kind of material and learn more about the lore behind the lore behind the lore of Star Wars. Star Wars Generations. You can find it wherever you can find your podcasts or at truestory.fm. And that's where all of our podcasts are. And the rest of us are all on some assembly of podcasts at truestory.fm and the Next Real Family of Film Shows. We appreciate your visit there. And if you want to support the show, you can get access to all of the member-only extended versions of every episode we do with the Next Real Family of Film Shows with one subscription. You'll get your own premium podcast feed. Subscribe to at truestory.fm/join, and you will get access to the Next Reel, Sitting in the Dark, the Film Board, CinemaScope, and I think there's one more in there that I've officially forgotten, but it's also there. And movies we like, which is going gangbusters. Frankly, right now it is an OG show, and we would love you to check out all those shows. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ocean and JJ and Matthew, for hanging out with me, for seeing this movie in the theater. And on behalf of all of us, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll see you next month right here on the Film Board.
We have spoken.